Good evening, dear students. So today we are going to start a new lesson, and this lesson has to do with good news and bad news. It's function, by the way. So good news means أخبار سارة, and bad news means أخبار حزينة or سيئة. So, and as you know that we have two types of news, which are either bad or good. So sometimes, for example, we have here an example, like suppose that, for example, Hanan is talking with Hind, okay, about one of their friends, which her name is Selma. So Hanan said, you know what, Hind, Selma got engaged. Engaged means that she has the ring. So for Hind, because Selma is their friend, their friends, so she says that's great news. And you can see here this person here is happy, because why? He heard this news, okay, so automatically he's going to be happy. And for example, this is a kind of good news. If we move to this one, we are going to see that there is a conversation between Joseph and Sam about their friend John. So he said, have you heard the news, Sam? Sam said, what? Joseph said, John had a terrible accident. And as you can see here, this is what does mean terrible accident. So automatically, if someone comes to you and said you had a terrible, or someone has terrible accident, it's a kind of bad news. So Sam, he said, what a bad news. And you can see here Gumball, or I don't know what's the name of this cartoon. So he is a kind of shocked and sad. So means he received bad news, right? Here are some expressions or expressing good news. If you want to say, for example, to someone a good news, what are you going to say? What are the things that you should start with? شنو الحاجات اللي خصك تبدا بهم؟ ماشي كتجي for example كتجي هكا تقول لبنادم يس مثلا جيتي قلت لبنادم راه ما تباك هكا بدون مقدمات. This is not a good way. So in English we have some expressions to start with, like this ones. قلنا بعد تعابير كنبداو بهم قبل ما نعطيو داك الخبر. For example, like, I'm really pleased to tell you that, for example, I'm really pleased to tell you that someone or a friend of yours got 19 in for example, in English, just an example, okay? Or I've got a bit of good news to tell you, or I've got some good, brilliant, great, wonderful, splendid news for you. Here we have only this. I've got some good, imma good, ولا brilliant, or great, or wonderful news for you. So ما يمكنش نستعملهم كاملين بدقة واحدة. So we use one adjective. And here another one. You know what? I've got a bit of great news for you. عارف شنو؟ عندي بعض أخبار السارة بالنسبة لك. So these are some expressions to start, for example, or expressing good news. Now let's move to how to express bad news. كيفاش نعبروا على bad news قبل ما تقول داك الخبر السيء شنو خصك تقول at the beginning. So we have here some examples, like for instance, I am afraid I've got some bad news for you. أنا آسف لكن لدي بعض الأخبار السيئة لك. What add then you said some هاد الأخبار السيئة. For example, I'm sorry I've got a bit of bad news to tell you. So أنا آسف لكن لدي بعض الأخبار السيئة يقولها لك, for example, or something like this. I really don't know how to say this, but ما عارف كيفاش نقول لك ولكن فلان دار accident, for example. But your friend had an accident, just an example. Or here, I'm sorry to have to say this, but آسف لقولي هذا لكن, for example. So these are some expressions to start or to express bad news. Okay, now how are you going to respond to both good news and bad news؟ كيفاش غادي تجاوب؟ يقول لك شي واحد for example شي خبر يعني صار ولا العكس. Okay, these are some examples. For instance, we have, oh, what a great news. Oh, yeah, for example, إنها أخبار رائعة, for example. Or, oh my goodness, great news. يا إلهي, أخبار رائعة. Or for example, wow, what a great news. So, for example, or sometimes you just say lucky you, أنت محظوظ. Or superb, for example. Or, oh, how wonderful. So these are, or sometimes just say congratulations. And this is, for example, if, as I said, for example, like the first example, if you still remember this example, if we say, for example, Selma got engaged, جات واحدة قالت راني تخطبت, for example, راه فلان خطب, for example, you can say congratulations. That's a good example, for instance. So these are some expressions of how to respond to good news. Now let's move to other expressions of how to respond to bad news. نجا تقلك شي خبر سيء كيفاش غادي ترجع عليه. So these are some examples. For instance, we have like, I feel sorry for that. يعني أحس بالأسف من تجاه هذا, for example. Or what a bad, terrible news. يا لها من أخبار فظيعة or سيئة, for example. Or oh dear, poor you, too bad. All these expressions كيعادوا كيعبرون على the same they have the same objective, يعني نفس الهدف هو responding to bad news. So you can use one of them, تقدر تستعمل واحد فيهم, and you are good. Now let's move to some examples and how to respond to good or bad news. كيفاش تجاوب على good or bad news. We have some just simple dialogues, small dialogues, like between, for example, the first one between Hamza, okay, and Ahmed. So Hamza said, I got my baccalaureate with 17.86. So خديت الباك ديالي ب 17.86. Automatically this is a kind of a good news, right? Okay, so Ahmed said, good news. So here, as I said, now you can answer, for example, with whatever news from here. تقدر تجاوب واحدة منها. And you can, for example, you can say, congratulations, wonderful. So you can, for example, answer one of these things. Let's move to the exchange number. So, for example, we have Sandra and Olivia. So Sandra said, did you hear the news? Tom's father passed away. هل سمعت الخبر? Tom's father passed away. Here, passed away, we did it in phrasal verbs, if you still remember. Passed away means to die. So, الأب ديال توم راه مات. So, for example, this is it's a kind of a bad news. So, Olivia, she's going to say, really? حقا? It's sad to hear that. من المحزن سماعي هذا, for example, like this. Exchange number 3 is between the father and uncle. They are talking about Khalid. كيهضر على خالد. يقدر خالد يكون الولد ديال هذا, for example, and the father said Khalid has got a visa for Canada. Okay, جا شي واحد عندك قال لك راني خديت الفيزا لكندا. This is a kind of a good news. So the uncle said, really? I just can't believe it. حقا يعني ما تسيقتش. I just can't believe it. This is these expressions are used, these ones, they are used to express good, to respond to good news. Now here are some situations that you should do. You students, you should do this kind of, you should respond to these situations. For example, here we have, my son was caught cheating in the exam. This person is telling this woman that hers or his son is caught cheating in the exam, يعني ولده تشد كي غش في امتحان. So what this woman is going to say, شو غتقول لها? Situation number 2, I have won 100 millions in the lottery. شوف هذا كيقول هذا بلي ربح 100 مليون في اليانصيب ولا في القمر, for example. You know, in Europe it's normal, even here in Morocco now, or in Arab countries. So this person, he was like shocked, you know, or yes, what he's going to say. Exercise number 2. So you are going to respond to the following situations between you and your father. And by the way, these types of examples of exercise you might find them in the national exams. تقدر تلقاهم في national exam كيتحطوا هكا the same way. So we have father, I have passed baccalaureate exam. So what the father is going to say? This person said راني ندز في امتحان الباك. So the father, what is going to say? This situation is between you and your friend, between you and your friend. Your friend comes to you and said, I did not pass my driving test. So ما دزتش في امتحان ديال permit. So what is going to say? Or what are you going to say? And this is another situation between your teacher and you. The last exercise is matching expressions to their function. How? You are going to match, you know what I mean, matching. Okay, so these are some expressions. They are here, expressions and their function. For example, that sounds great. What is it? Is it responding to bad news, or giving bad news, or giving good news, or responding to good news? And the same with all these things. So you are going to do this exercise with yourself. غديروا exercise مع راسكم, of course, when you watch the video. But before that, you have to write this. You have to write the date and in function part في البسطة ديال function, and write this, the title, العنوان, and then you are going to write these examples. This example, example number 2, and then أولا كبيرة you are going to say right expressing good news. ثانيا كبيرة expressing bad news. ثالثا كبيرة responding to good news. رابعا كبيرة it's responding to bad news. And then you are going to like some examples. You are going to write these ones. يعني هذه محتاج هذه examples هذو. These ones you have to write them with another color. حاول تكتبوا with another color. What exercises you are going to do them with yourself. مع راسكم. Okay, that's all for now, and I hope you enjoy listening to this video. And if you don't understand something, please let me know. That's all.